Martin, welcome this morning to The Gift. Now, Martin, you are known as the Christian poet.
Yeah.
Do you come from a literary background?
No, not really at all. My mum did write the occasional poem, so if there's any hereditary gift, it would be from my mother, but no one else.
Okay. So, what writers then did you enjoy reading as a child? And did you write as a child?
I enjoyed reading very much. Most of my childhood was spent reading. I enjoyed all of the classics. Enid Blyton, The Famous Five, Secret Seven were my favourite sort of books. But poetry-wise, not so much. Dr. Seuss, The Cat in the Hat, was a big favourite. It still is now. If I see a Dr. Seuss book anywhere, Jeannie, I just have to pick it up and read it, and I really enjoy it. And then as a teenager, Helen Steiner Rice was a Christian poet, was a great find, and I just couldn't get enough of her books and reading her poetry. So maybe a slight influence on me there. And the second part of the question was,
Did you write as a child?
as a child, my mother always assured me that I was writing poetry or composing poems in my head from the age of about 3 or 4 onwards. So even before I was capable of writing them down, I was creating them. So yeah, I've always had that ability to create scenarios and to handle rhyme as well. I had a very good vocabulary as a young child. So yeah, I've been writing since I was a tot.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, I love your writing. Your poems are so expressive as well. And I have to agree with you, The Famous Five, I really did enjoy that book myself as a child. So, Martin, your poems, they really speak of honesty, sadness, gladness, humour, and the Bible. So, how did you first get started as a poet then?
Like I say, creating poetry very young. I remember sitting in church in my pre-teens, and everyone in those days used to like to make notes of what was being preached, and we'd all sit in a row with our notepads, and my notes would always rhyme. I could take what the preacher was saying and record it in rhyming form.
Amazing.
Which often I was asked at the end of the service, have you written a poem, Martin? Yes. Would you do it for us? And it was just like a recap of what the preacher had. So there's always that. It's just like something that just happens where things become rhyme in my head. Performing it was a different matter altogether, Jeannie, because naturally shy, a real shyness probably when I was smaller, and a natural timidity and a social awkwardness as well. Totally not being confident meant that I had reams and reams of stuff written, but I didn't have the confidence to actually recite it publicly, or I had to really know the people I was with to feel confident enough. So it was a bit of a quandary, really, that I got the gift, but not got the confidence to use it.
Yes.
But obviously, as I've got older, that's changed almost 180 degrees now, and I'm, much more confident to really enjoy public performance. So.
Yeah, I can see that your gift has grown because, like you say, you were shy, and now you had that confidence, God confidence in you to be able to speak in front of people. So that's fantastic, isn't it? So Martin, how do your poems actually develop?
They start normally, like I say, in church. The preacher might say something, or just walking into church or walking into a pub. You might just overhear two people talking, and it might just be one word that they say, 2 words that they say, and you think, I could write a poem about that. I jot it down straight away. You'll see me often in the Zoom meeting on Living Stones with my pen and pad out, and you probably think I'm super spiritual, making notes on what the preacher's saying. I'm actually picking up words that are being said and jotting them down. Because if I don't write them down straight away, if I think, right, when this meeting ends, I'll write that down. By the time the meeting ends, I've forgotten it. And I estimate I've probably forgotten in excess of 95% of my best poem ideas because I didn't write them down immediately.
So it's good.
Jot down words. That's the conception of a poem. Sometimes I can, within an hour, write a poem. Other times it can be 5 years or even 10 years later. I pick that piece of paper up and I just think, oh, I could write that poem today.
Wow.
And you write it. And it can just lie dormant for many, many years before it actually gets developed. Once I start writing, it's normally less than an hour for most of my poems. They tend to come very quickly when they come, but it can be years before they come. Normally, people keep talking around me because I'm making notes and picking up ideas for poems.
Well, it's good to jot things down, isn't it? And like you say, if that gives you some inspiration as well, that can only be a good thing. Now, I do have to ask you, Martin, who is your favourite poet?
My favourite secular poet is a man called Dom Moraes, who isn't the best known poet. He was an Indian gentleman, born and died in Mumbai.
Okay.
He was a last century poet. And his poem, The Garden, is really worth looking up. If you want to see some excellent rhyme and usage of the English language, he always wrote in English.
Right.
He's just an excellent poet. My favourite Christian poet, of course, is my friend Adrian Glass.
Yeah.
He's just such a great observer of life. He just sees things around happening, conversations that he overhears, and just expresses them so well. I just really, really admire his work.
Yeah, he is a good poet, Adrian, isn't he? I would agree with you there. And also, Martin, what advice can you give to people or someone who wants to start writing poetry?
My advice is write, then write some more, then write even more, and then write again. Read a lot, build up your vocabulary because you need that. Don't use an online rhyme finder unless you absolutely have to. You really want to sound like yourself and not like a computer. And then, I don't know if I mentioned it, but write. Not to write, keep writing.
I think that's really good advice, actually. I really do. And I think you summed that up beautifully for people who wish to start writing poems. Now, Martin, you are going to read to us this morning, to finish with, one of your poems that you've written. But tell me first, how did this come about?
This was an easy choice. As you know, Jeannie, I've got two amazing daughters.
You have.
Rebecca and Rachel. And when Rebecca, my oldest, was 10, she just turned 10 in the January. And in the April, at Easter time, she said, "Daddy, all of your poems are too serious." Which is a comment because I have a prophetic edge, so can have a bit of a sharp side to a lot of my poetry. But she said, "All of your poems are too serious. Can you write something funny to make us laugh?"
Lovely.
Now, Easter isn't normally a funny season for us Christians. It's a season of great suffering and loss until it gets through to Easter Sunday, of course. But this was Palm Sunday when she made this request. So I sat and wrote this poem, it's a funny poem about a very serious subject. And the underlying question behind this poem, Jeannie, is there's something for each of us that will stop us from seeing the Lord and following the Lord. It might be football, it might be handbags, it might be cars, it might be shoes. My youngest daughter, it will always be shoes.
Girls like shoes.
But there's always something that will distract us. So this one is called A Horse Named Anna. He got upon a horse named Anna and rode her through the crowd. The people must have known her already, because they shouted her name out loud. Horse Anna, Horse Anna, Horse Anna, Horse Anna, and they seemed to adore Horse Anna. Anna trotted on so gently, with palm branches lining her way, as the people continued shouting at the top of their voices that day, Horse Anna, Horse Anna, Horse Anna, Horse Anna. Yes, they clearly adored Horse Anna. So, many might not have noticed the man sat upon Anna's back, silhouetted in the skirmish by the sky so angry and black. But any who did take the time to take the whole scene in may have seen the hidden glory of the answer to their sin. But this just wasn't the time to think of sin and be sad. The Son of God sat on this horse, was driving the crowd quite mad. Hosanna! 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 Yes, they clearly adored Hosanna. Then, before they saw it coming, his journey was complete. And now, some there were wishing they had shouted at his feet, Hosanna! 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 But they missed the Lord because they clearly adored Horse Anna.
What an amazing poem that you have read and brought to us this morning, Martin. And even though there's that humorous side, there's also a very serious side with such depth to that poem. So thank you, the Christian poet Martin, this morning for joining me for the gift. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.